President Trump said America will struggle for years if he loses the Supreme Court tariffs case. Watch.
If we win the tariff case, which hopefully we will, it's vital to the interests of our country. We're the wealthiest country there is. If we don't, we'll be struggling for years to come.
Steve Moore joins us this morning. Now, Steve, I know you're not a tariff guy, but I need some clarity here. The president says if we don't get the tariffs, we're going to struggle. In what way will we struggle?
Good to be with you, Stuart. And by the way, I'll place a bet with you right now if you'd like. I do believe that Trump will lose this decision in the court. I think it will be 6-3 or maybe 7-2 against him. By the way, you want to take me up on that one, Stuart?
No, I'm not a gambling man, but I'm interested in your reasoning here.
Okay.
I'm sure you've done your research. Okay. But if he loses, okay, we're going to struggle. In what way do we struggle?
Well, so by the way, that prediction I'm making is really based, as you know, I'm not a lawyer, I'm an economist, but I've been talking to a lot of the top judicial minds in the country, and it's pretty much of a consensus that Trump will lose because the Constitution is pretty clear that all taxes start in the House of Representatives, not in the Oval Office. So this will cause a lot of turmoil when he loses. And there's a lot of outstanding issues. For example, when I said that Trump is likely to lose this case, it may be a very nuanced decision where the court says, well, some of the tariffs can hold and some of them have to be rejected, and some of them could stay in place for a while until, because remember, Trump is saying that this is needed for emergency powers and for national security reasons, and so the court may buy into some of that. So what I'm trying to tell you, it's going to be a bloody mess. It's trying to sort out what happens next, because if these tariffs are essentially repealed by the court, think about this, Stuart. Would that mean that the U.S. government has to pay back the people who paid the tariffs? I mean, it's just one of the, and we're talking about tens, if not hundreds of billions of dollars of revenue. So this is going to take a long time to sort out if and when Trump loses in the courts. And that's, by the way, that decision should come down, I'm told, sometime in late November or early December.
But the biggest struggle would not necessarily be in the economy. It would be in the market, because investors haven't got a clue what happens to individual companies caught up in this tariff thing. That's where the struggle would be. If the Supreme Court rejects tariffs, watch out, look out below for the market. Can I sum it up like that?
Well, look, under that scenario, then what the court is saying, these have to be approved by Congress. And then you'd have to have votes in Congress, right, to whether these any of these tariffs are to be upheld. Probably most of the Republicans would vote for that. I don't know about where the Democrats would be. So there will be a lot of turmoil as we sort this out. Where do you go next if you're Donald Trump in the White House and you lose this Supreme Court case? You've got to make the case to the people. You got to make the case to the Congress about which of these tariffs should stay and which should go. It is the centerpiece, as you know, of Trump's economic strategy. You're right. Yes, I'm not a big fan of these tariffs, but how many times have I said this on your show? He has been able to use the leverage of these tariffs to get better trade deals with these countries. So it's all kind of up in smoke if he loses in court.
Yeah. I need to find out, and so does every other investor. Steve Moore, thanks for being with us, sir. We appreciate it.